The Mini Driver is the coolest piece of golf equipment out there right now. This thing is it's just cool. But do you need one in your bag? Let's talk about it. Let's start with the basics of what a mini driver is. As the name implies, it is smaller than a driver. Mini drivers are typically somewhere in the 300cc range. A modern driver is going to be 460cc's. Some mini drivers may be a little smaller, a little bigger. You can see it's about 2/3 the size on average. In addition, they're typically a little more lofted. They have 11 or 13 degrees of loft. Most drivers are 10, 9, 10 and a half maybe. They also tend to have a little shorter shaft. So where a modern driver is going to be 45 to 46 inches, a mini driver is going to be 43 or 43 and a half most of the time. So why does the mini driver exist? What does it promise to do? Sitting between the driver and the 3-wood, it promises to be the best of both worlds. Because it is more lofted and on a shorter shaft than the driver, it offers to be more accurate. Because it is stronger lofted and a little bigger than the 3-wood, it promises to be longer than your 3-wood. Now, anytime something promises to be the best of both worlds, we have to consider it could be the worst of both worlds. It's going to be, in all likelihood, shorter than your driver because it is more lofted, because it is on a shorter shaft. You're probably going to lose some swing speed, some ball speed. It also may not be very accurate. It may not be much more accurate than your 3-wood, which, this is a whole separate video topic, 3-woods really aren't that much more accurate than your driver anyway. There are some reasons we can talk about that. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. I'll make a whole video about that. But point is, it's possible you will get the same accuracy as your driver and the distance of your 3-wood, which is not what you want. Now, there are two things that are inarguably true about a mini driver. First, it's going to be less forgiving than your driver. At around 300 cc's, it's just much smaller than your driver. It's less stable, so it's going to perform worse on mishits. Your driver is going to keep those mishits straighter and probably put more ball speed on them. The second truth, the positive one, is that these are much more versatile than a driver or a 3-wood. These have generally taller faces than your average 3-wood. They're going to be easier to hit off the tee, but they're going to be much easier to hit off the deck than a driver because the face is much shorter than a driver. So you're giving up forgiveness, that's a certainty. You're gaining some versatility, that's a certainty. Now, how much you can put that versatility to use is going to depend on what kind of ball striker you are. But regardless, it does offer more options than a traditional driver or a 3-wood. So how are you going to find out if a mini driver will perform well for you? The answer is always to go to a club fitting. Now, getting fit for a mini driver may be a little more involved than with other clubs. With a driver, you know how high you like to tee up a driver, so pretty easy to get in there, hit driver off a tee and figure out the right specs for you, the right model for you. With a mini driver, you may have to experiment a bit, figure out where do you like that tee height. Also, you're going to be hitting this off the turf potentially, so that may add another layer to the fitting. But at the end of the day, you still need to do all the basics of finding the right loft, the right settings, the right shaft, to make sure the mini driver in your hand does its best for you. Now, when you head to your fitting, one major thing to keep in mind is to look at the face height of the mini drivers you're testing. If you want to hit your mini driver off the turf a lot, you're going to want one with a slightly shallower face. The shallower face, just like in a fairway would, is going to put that CG a little lower, make it easier to hit off the turf and elevate it. This is a TaylorMade R7 Quad, has one of the tallest faces in a mini driver, making it great off the tee, but not as good off the turf. So you want to think about how you're going to use your mini driver before you decide which model to test and ultimately buy. So let's say you've gone through your fitting, you found a mini driver that works perfectly for you, but you're still asking the question we started this video with, do I need a mini driver? Well, I'm going to go through 5 different reasons why you might want a mini driver and help you evaluate whether or not they're good reasons to spend your cash and a spot in the bag to put in a mini driver. I want to carry fewer golf clubs. I'm a minimalist, and I think that if I have a mini driver, I can get rid of my driver and my 3-wood and just carry that instead. I think this is one of the best reasons out there. If you're a minimalist, you want to carry 6, 7 clubs, you can take the mini driver, throw out your 3-wood, just put the mini driver in. I think it's a great option for the player who wants more versatility, who wants to carry fewer clubs, but doesn't really want to give up much distance off the tee, doesn't want to give up the ability to go for par fives and two. That's a great reason to put a mini driver in the bag. I need a club that's going to be longer from the fairway than my 3-wood. I want to get to more par fives in 2 shots. This is the reason I am most skeptical about. If you want to be longer from the fairway, you have to fit into a very narrow mold of player for the mini driver to be the best option for you. Most players are not getting their maximum distance out of a 15-degree traditional 3-wood because they simply don't launch the ball high enough. I know a lot of players, at least players from an older generation, have this mentality that lower is longer, but that's just not the case. We should know by now that getting the ball up in the air, even off the tee with a driver, you want to get that ball up to a 15-degree launch angle for most ball speeds. So for most players, they're not even getting their maximum distance out of a 15-degree 3-wood, let alone something at 13 or 11 degrees. If you are, however, one of those players who is hitting a 15-degree 3-wood off the turf and still getting too much spin, launching it too high, I would probably recommend a strong 3-wood, a 13-degree 3-wood. There are plenty of makers that have those, rather than getting a mini driver, just because that face is going to be much shorter in the strong 3-wood, and it's going to be easier to elevate and still get that nice higher launch angle while you're getting lower spin and a little bit more ball speed. That's not to say that there's no player for whom a 13-degree mini driver is going to be the longest option off the turf. There are some players out there like that, and that's why fitting is so critically important, but this is the reason I am most skeptical about. I want a mini driver because I want a club that's going to be more accurate off the tee. This one's a maybe for me. As I mentioned earlier in the video, hitting 3-wood off the tee is really not much more accurate than hitting driver off the tee. ShotScope's numbers, which are a little bit old, but I don't think they've changed a lot because they're based on huge sample sizes, show that across all handicap levels, golfers only hit 1% more fairways with a 3-wood than with a driver. And that's going all the way to 15 degrees of loft and a 43-inch shaft. The mini driver kind of splits the difference. So it might be more accurate than your driver, but I don't think that's a slam dunk. That's something I'd really want to see proven out in a fitting over a pretty big sample size before I said that wanting a more accurate option off the tee is a great reason for bagging a mini driver. I want a mini driver because I want a club that's going to give me more versatility off the tee to hit different kinds of shots. Now we're back into the realm of reasons that I really do like. If you want something that's more versatile off the tee, I think a mini driver is a great choice. A lot of these mini drivers, like the PXG Secret Weapon, have movable weights, an adjustable hosel, and that gives you so much flexibility to set up the mini driver to do something different than your normal driver does. For example, I don't like playing a draw off the tee. I've seen too many balls hook in my lifetime. I just don't really trust the draw. I prefer to set my driver up to hit a cut. But with a mini driver, with the shorter shaft, the additional loft, I feel okay hitting a little draw. So I might take a mini driver, set it up to produce a small draw, and have this as my draw club and my driver as my fade club. This is also probably going to be a hair shorter because of the shorter shaft and additional loft, and that's okay. Now I've got something different I can hit off the tee. Or it might be that, like me, mini drivers just give you a little more freedom. You feel like you can tee it up at different heights, you can hit more different shots. Again, maybe that extra loft, the shorter shaft, gives you a little more comfort. So if you want more versatility off the tee, I love that. I think a mini driver, well fit, is a great choice. I want a mini driver because they're cool. I just think it looks fun to have in the bag. Now, with due respect to minimalists and those people who want more versatility off the tee, this is the single best reason to put a mini driver in the bag. Golf is a game. It's supposed to be fun. And this thing particularly, because this reminds me of the first real driver I ever had, this is just awesome. It's super fun. Why not throw it in the bag? Most golfers don't need 14 clubs. The number of golfers who have the requisite speed and ball striking ability to have meaningful distance gaps between 14 clubs, it's a very small number. So yeah, throw out the club you don't hit, throw out the 3-wood or the 5-wood or the 4-iron or the 3-iron or an extra wedge or something, and make room for this because it's fun, because every time I pull this club out of the bag, I have a big smile on my face. So that's the single best reason. If you were looking for somebody to give you permission to put a mini driver in the bag, consider me your permission slip. Absolutely go for it. If this video has left you with any unanswered questions about mini drivers, please feel free to post them down below. I look at every comment. I try to answer every single question. I'll make a whole nother video if I have to. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with my latest content. And if there are any different videos you'd like to see, any topics you'd like me to cover, please post them down below and I'll get right on it.